Welcome back to Diary of an Airstream. My family is in town for spring break. Y'all say hey. And today we are working on countertops. For countertops, we chose maple butcherblock, and in order to get a piece long enough to run the entire distance from the front of the kitchen to the closet, we had to buy a 12-foot piece. We only needed about 10 feet, but unfortunately, that was not an option. So we had to move a 12-foot piece of maple butcherblock in and out through the front window several times because it was too long to make the turn coming in from the front door. Fortunately, my parents were in town. Between the four of us, it wasn't too heavy, although two of us have had back surgery, so still a little stressful. For our first trip into Pauline, we measured the length, and then after measuring about 700 more times, we carried it out and cut the length. Then we carried the countertop back into Pauline so that we could mark where the cutouts for the oven and the sink would go. With the cutouts marked, we moved the countertop back into the garage where Jared cut out the hole for the oven using a circular saw and used a router to cut out the opening for the undermount sink. It took about 50 passes, but we wanted to make sure that we got a really smooth edge since the edge will be visible for the sink. With the cutouts completed, Jared put a different bit on the router and chamfered the edge. This also took several passes to make sure that we got a smooth, even cut and didn't burn the wood.
You've seen us cut out the spot for the sink, the spot for the oven. We've already drilled the holes for the faucets on everything, and we even chamfered the edge. Now, what we've done today is we've sanded this with 120 and then 180. You don't want to go much more than that. 220 is about the max when you're going to be using what we're using today, which is dark tongue oil. So any of the oil finishes, you're wanting your wood to actually soak it up. This is dark tongue oil cut 50-50 with a citrus solvent. This is from the Real Milk Paint Company. And so what we'll do is we'll use this across the main surfaces of the countertop. Now, the advantage of this also is that it's really easy to apply. It's food safe. You don't have to be worried about how your surface, keeping it all nice and even. You literally just want to make sure that it's covered. Go back and you wipe up the excess in about 30 minutes. Now we also have straight tongue oil right here. So any of our cut surfaces, especially around our sink, that's where we're going to be using this straight tongue oil because that wood grain is really going to want to soak up a lot right there.
We waited about a week after applying the dark tongue oil before we moved the countertop into the Airstream, and we'll show you that at the end. But in the meantime, I want to show you some of the other projects that we finished up. Jared was able to put in the metal window frames that go around some of the windows at the front and the plastic window frames that go around that very front wing window. He also went back and put in rivets to hold up the ceiling panel that's been hanging a little bit loosely. Then I was able to start on some of my small projects during spring break. The first task on my to-do list was painting the back of the bathroom door, which initially seemed like a pretty straightforward task. Unfortunately, the bathroom is very tiny, and the only way to paint the back of the bathroom door is to close yourself into that tiny space. Also, the door is a sliding door, which means that in order to get out, you have to slide your freshly painted door out of the way without messing up that paint. To add further complication to this process, the foam part of my roller kept falling off the metal part of my roller, which means that at one point, the foam part fell onto the floor completely loaded with paint, and I had to exit that tiny bathroom, go get a wet paper towel, and clean it up, all without messing up the paint I had just applied to the door. It was a nightmare, but it's done. Initially, I was planning to make all of the curtain rods because one of them needed to be curved, but then I realized that was stupid, so I'm just going to make one curved curtain rod, and I bought all the rest. Check. The ceiling panels were fitting much more flush since Jared had added the additional rivets, but that also meant that they looked a little bit more punctuated than I cared for, so I went back and added trim. This trim had adhesive tape on one side, but the other side didn't have anything, so I had to add construction adhesive as well to make it stick. While all of this was going on, my mom powered through some sort of cold flu illness to make blackout curtains for all of the windows in the Airstream. I forgot to film it, but I did actually go back and use color-matched caulk to fill in the gaps where some of the floorboards were separating. This has helped to create a much more seamless appearance on the floor. Then, instead of actually completing my to-do list and painting the window trim, instead I added something different to the to-do list, and we went in and installed the baseboards. By the way, this is our friend Audrey. She came over to help us move in the countertop, but since she was there, we put her to work on some other tasks as well.
This is the rock guard. As its name implies, this will go in front of the Airstream and protect it from any rocks or debris getting picked up while it's driving down the road. Protect the windows primarily. So what we have here, this is the hinge on top. This is where it attaches right above the window. And so what I've done is I've marked where I'm going to drill some holes and put some self-tapping screws in. I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill these, and then I've got some double-sided tape that came from the factory like that, and so we will stick this up against the Airstream, we'll drill those holes, and then we'll put those self-tapping screws in place. This actually will slide off for now. I've removed a rivet there at the end, and that'll allow us to just put this up. Then we can slide the rock guard into place, put this rivet back, and everything will stay there.
For perhaps the first time ever, this project actually went faster than expected. I'm going to attribute that to Audrey being there. With my parents already returned to Alabama, we enlisted Audrey and her brothers, Gage and Asher, to help us carry the countertop in one last time and set it in place.